Every offseason, NFL fan bases go through the same psychological torture. The team lets them down, then over the course of just a few months, they regain hope and convince themselves that this year is going to be different. It's a 5-stage journey of delusion that I'm about to walk you through right now, starting with Stage 1, Off-Season Depression. For most of us, this stage starts in January when our team doesn't make the playoffs, and for others, it starts after that heartbreaking playoff loss. Regardless of where your team's season officially ended, the real depression for just about everybody kicks in after the Super Bowl, because that's when you officially realize that there's no football to distract you from all the pain. It's just you, your thoughts, and months of darkness ahead. In this stage, it's most likely that you're probably looking for somebody to blame because that's easier than accepting the reality that your team let you down again. You're sitting there replaying the season in your head thinking things like the refs screwed you, your offensive coordinator should be fired, and if your starting running back hadn't gotten hurt in week 3, everything about this season would have been different. You might say things like, "I'm done with this team." You might even dramatically announce to your group chat that you're, quote, taking a break from football with the same conviction as someone who says that they're never going to eat carbs again. If you have a significant other, they're probably trying to console you during this time and saying phrases like, "There's always next year." And you have to physically restrain yourself from throwing yourself out your apartment window because they just don't understand that this year was supposed to be our next year. The worst part about the whole thing is that even though you're dead inside, you've already started to give yourself little pieces of false hope. While you're sitting there bundled up in your depression cocoon, you catch yourself thinking, man, if we just draft that guy out of Ohio State, that could really change everything. The grieving process was supposed to last longer than this, but here you are, ready to be hurt all over again. Stage 2, Draft Season Delusions and Free Agency Frenzy. Early March hits, and this is where free agency and the combine roll around. Suddenly, you're an expert on hand sizes, and soon your mind will be consumed with thoughts about muscular men running around in spandex. Before you know it, you're watching linebacker drills at 10 a.m. and calling your boss to let them know that you have food poisoning and won't be coming in today. When it comes to the combine, we all know that the highlight of the entire thing is the 40-yard dash. The best thing about the 40 is that you create win-win scenarios in your head about players that you like. If that guy that you like runs a fast 40, well, you knew that he was going to all along. And if he doesn't run a fast 40, everybody who knows ball knows that there's this thing called football speed that can't possibly be measured on a stopwatch. During this stage, you'll do a ridiculous amount of mock drafts. And somehow in all of your mock drafts, all of the best players just magically fall into your team's lap. In between mock drafts, you're probably running a franchise on Madden and you're making all of the moves that your GM is too stupid to make. You know, like trading for elite players using only 6th-round picks and somehow staying under the salary cap despite the fact that you somehow have managed to get 4 of the top 5 wide receivers in the league all on your team. If only your team's front office had your vision. Man, we'd be going places. Not only is the draft hype in full effect, but free agency hype is at an all-time high. You've been patiently waiting for your team to make a big splash and hopefully sign one of the top free agents available, and then it finally happens. That ESPN notification hits your phone and it says, "Breaking, your team has signed offensive lineman Mike Williams-Johnson III." Who the is Mike Williams-Johnson III, and who decided to give that name to someone 3 times? Nobody's heard of this man, but if anyone asks, you're definitely going to pretend that you do. And on top of that, here's what's going to happen next. You're going to go to Reddit to figure out how to feel about this new player. And within about 20 minutes, the echo chamber has done its job. Your team's subreddit is a beautiful circle jerk of delusion where everybody's injecting the same amount of copium. You jump in a thread and you start reading comments like, "He was buried on the depth chart. He's actually a huge steal." Then you see another comment that reads, "PFF had him rated 39th in pass blocking when it's a full moon." You'd go through the rest of the thread, but really, you've seen all you needed to see. It's confirmation bias at its finest, but let's be honest, you didn't come here for anything but confirmation. You are now fully convinced that your front office is on the right track, and Mike Williams-Johnson III is that missing piece that you were looking for. On draft night itself, you turn it into a 3-hour ceremony where names being read aloud is somehow your biggest form of entertainment. Every pick that your team makes is genius, and every pick that your division rivals make is somehow a reach. The fact that your team hasn't drafted a Pro Bowler in 3 years doesn't matter at all. Your team's shiny new rookies along with Mike Williams-Johnson III are going to change everything about the culture. Stage 3, Rosterbation Station. It's now May, the draft is over, and most of the big free agents have already signed with their new teams. So you finally have a first look at a roster that you can now obsess over. This is when you create Excel spreadsheets and start mapping out the depth chart for your ideal 53-man team. It's during this period of deep rosterbation and analysis that you'll come to one of 2 conclusions. Either your team absolutely killed free agency in the draft, or they didn't do enough and they completely botched it. But the beautiful thing about it is that it doesn't really matter which conclusion you come to right now, because you're going to end up in the exact same place at the end of this stage. If you think that your team crushed it, scheduled release day just becomes a day of validation. You're mapping out wins and losses like someone who's never been hurt before. If you happen to fall into that group that thinks your team didn't do enough, you're going to convince yourself that yeah, your team failed, but everybody else failed a lot harder. You'll be telling yourself things like, actually, a quiet offseason is a good thing because we're just building in the right way. Either way, by the time that you're done with your calculations, your 5-12 team from last year is now well on their way to being 12-5 minimum. We also can't forget that in this stage, you're comparing your roster to your division rivals, and you're not particularly impressed with what they've done. That first round pick that they made has obvious character issues that are going to come back to bite them in the ass. And yeah, sure, they did make that big free agent signing, but that guy's completely washed. We will not talk about the fact that if either of those players were on your team, your outlook on them would be completely flipped on its head. If you're the kind of guy that reads articles, this also might be the time when you start finding and sharing articles that say that your team is going to be the one that absolutely shocks the rest of the league. Never mind the fact that every other team in the league has the same exact article written about them. This specific article that you found is unbiased, unlike all those other ones. By the end of May, you've convinced yourself that your team, the same one that was full of holes just a few months ago, is now complete because you added 8 rookies and a guard that nobody wanted. Your division is there for the taking, and training camp can't come fast enough because you need to see this dream team in action. The Delusion is reaching dangerous levels and your guys haven't even put on pads yet. Before we go to the next stage, I just wanted to say, if you're enjoying the video and feeling generous, consider leaving a like and maybe even subscribing. It really does help the channel, and it gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling in places that I can't talk about on camera. Anyways, back to the video. Stage 4, propaganda season. It's June now, and by this time, OTAs have commenced for just about every team. This is where the propaganda machine really starts to kick into high gear. Every single piece of information that comes out of camp is positive because we all know that when it comes to your team, it's physically impossible for anything bad to happen between now and August. And if there did happen to be anything negative coming out of camp, you'll just write it off as complete propaganda. You saw a tweet that your new favorite rookie looked smooth in drills today. Based on that tweet from a beat writer who's probably watched 20 minutes of practice, you've determined that that rookie is on Hall of Fame trajectory. This is also when the phrase best shape of his life gets thrown around a lot. Your team has a 35-year-old linebacker coming off his 3rd knee surgery who hasn't played a full season since Pop Warner, and you better believe that man is in the best shape of his life. At this point in the offseason, even the equipment manager is obviously in the best shape of his life. It's an epidemic of fitness that somehow only exists from June to August and mysteriously disappears by week 3 of the regular season. By the time training camp is in full swing, the hype is just too much to resist. Every catch is spectacular, every throw is perfect, and every rookie on your team looks like they've been in the league for years. Beat reporters become prophets delivering daily sermons of hope. Their tweets are dissected by your team's fan base like ancient texts. They'll say things like the connection between QB1 and wide receiver 2 is really developing. This means absolutely nothing, but the important thing is that it is enough to sustain you for another 24 hours until you read the next extremely vague headline. By August, you've convinced yourself that every weakness from last year has been fixed, and you're going to be roster baiting daily until you finally see your team suit up in preseason. Stage 5, preseason gem hunting. This is it. Preseason's finally here, and you finally get the first chance to see your new team in action. Well, sort of. Starters play one series, go 3 and out, and immediately the overreactions begin. If your starters happen to look really good, well, that just means that your offseason assessments were right all along. If your starters look bad, you tell yourself, it's just preseason, guys. They're saving it all for week 1. But let's be serious here. Preseason isn't about the starters anyways. It's about discovering diamonds in the rough, and brother, they don't call you the best scout in your NCAA dynasty for no reason. You know talent when you see it. In the 3rd quarter of the 2nd preseason game, some undrafted kid from Northwest Central State Tech makes a spectacular one-handed catch against a cornerback who will soon be selling insurance. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you've just witnessed the birth of a superstar. You're calling up your fantasy league's commissioner saying things like, hey man, just wanted to give you a heads up that you might want to send the trophy my way now because I just picked up this year's Puka Nacua. By the end of the preseason, you've identified at least 3 future Pro Bowlers that nobody else knows about. Your depth chart is loaded with hidden gems, and you've probably already mapped out how if they don't make the final 53-man roster, they're going to take a team-friendly deal and hang out on the practice squad for 3 years while they develop. You're feeling so good about the state of your team going into the regular season that you've already requested time off work for playoff weekends. In fact, you're already looking at Super Bowl tickets. Not to buy them, of course, that would be insane. It's, just in case. The regular season is just days away now, and you've reached peak delusion. your team is going to set the league on fire. All those experts who said that your team is going to go 4-13 are about to eat their words. And hey, don't forget that even if your team sucks this year, you'll be back here ready to repeat the cycle all over again. And that, my friends, is the 5 stages of the NFL offseason cycle. Let me know down in the comments what stage is your personal favorite. I think my personal favorite is stage 2 because I would be lying if I said I didn't love watching men run around in their underwear. If you enjoyed this documentation of our collective insanity, you might enjoy one of my other videos, which I've put on screen right here. Thank you all for watching, and a special thank you to all of my early subscribers. It really means more than you know. I can't thank y'all enough. I will catch you all in the next one.